The Centurion Action X Armour Guide by Dangerously Incompetent for World of Tanks. Looking at the Centurion Action X, it looks a lot like its predecessors, particularly in the hull. The turret, however, has changed somewhat. Will it be as tough? Will it be as bouncy when you're hull down? All these questions and more will be answered as you watch the Armour Guide of the Centurion Action X. Going by the numbers, hull armour, much the same as its predecessors. Comparing it to other Tier 10 mediums, the E50M has got more hull armour on the front and particularly on the sides. 50mm on the sides is still not very thick, even though it's got an extra little bit of plate. Turret armour, 198. Ooh, that's looking it's down a bit, but it's still looking good. Side 152, that's pretty good. Until you look at the Russian mediums, who have more armour on the front and side of their turret, and their turrets are domed, which really helps get those bounces and decrease the angle of attack of enemy shots. So let's have a closer look at the 3D model. Looking at the front, we can see the same layout. It's actually the same layout as the previous Centurions. That's a weak forehead, 85mm, and it's quite big. There's that 198mm on the front, and then the sides steeply angled for very thick effective armour, but they're not actually that thick. There is now a larger cupola, which is a weak spot to shoot for. And when we looked at the model, looking around, the gun muzzle, you'll be forgiven for thinking that is probably a weak spot. However, it's not modelled. So you just got 198mm, and if you get close enough to the gun, an extra bit of space behind it. There's no gap there to shoot through, no weak spot around the gun, even though it doesn't appear to have much of a mantlet. Hull, front 120, still you're not going to bounce too much off it at 120, even though it is quite nicely angled. And then the lower hull is just as weak and just as tall as its predecessors. So if you're looking straight at the Centurion and you can see his lower hull, that's a good target. If not, that big forehead, especially if you're looking down on it when its effective armour drops like a stone. And if that doesn't tickle your fancy, then there's always a reasonable shot if you're close enough or accurate enough for that cupola. Looking at the sides, front of the turret, nice and thick, and it becomes angled. Rear of the turret, not so thick, not so angled. If you can see the rear, shoot the rear. I wouldn't bother with the cupola, it's too small, and it's tougher than that side of the turret at the rear. Side of the hull, 50mm. Even with that space bit of 25mm, and a 6mm, still only 82 is not so bad. So you could just about get away with a bit of side scraping. Or it might, it's provided what you're looking at isn't your Tier 10 heavy or TD. You might be able to get a bit of side scraping in against lesser opponents. Rear, totally soft. Apart from the turret. Fairly tough at 95, but where are you going to hide this hull? This huge bloated hull with 31 mils on the rear. Oof. What about when we got our gun depression on? There we go, let's have a look. Provided you've hidden your hull, you're looking alright. The 120 mils, 120 mils goes up to 260 with effective armour, and the front of the turret is even well, about the same, and then gets even thicker as it starts angling, and that forehead is angled shallowly enough to be very effective armour. So hull down on a crest with its nose higher than its arse. Do not show your lower hull, and you're laughing until artillery decides to plant one because you're going back to the same place every time. That's it for the Centurion Action X. Much the same as its predecessors in the Centurion line. Not as tough in the hull as the German E50. Turret isn't as nice all round as the Russian mediums, but it's all comes good on that crest fighting.